Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Anna Smith, and I'm the host for Leadership Table Talks. I'm very excited and honored to have Steve Smith today with us today. Let me give you a brief introduction of who our guest is today. So, Steve is currently the executive chairman of Stewart Tubular Products in Houston. He's also CEO and co founder of Bradford Performance Solutions, a performance improvement consultancy which serves clients on 5 continents. Steve has held very senior positions, including, of course, executive chairman, executive and chief COO, managing director, executive vice president of ops, and general manager. In addition to that, Steve is also a highly sought after speaker and has earned the reputation as a luminary in the organizational performance excellence space. A fun fact about Steve is that he speaks multiple languages and originally wanted to be a marine biologist and oceanographer. Welcome, Steve.
Well, thank you very much, Anna. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you. And, I'm extremely happy, Steve, to learn more about the importance of breakthrough results. So let me get into matter if that's okay. I know we have some really good questions from our audience, which we'll pepper in as we go. But let me just get us started with, what do you find as the typical approach to overcoming the challenges in today's business environment?
Well, that's a very good question because things remain consistently the same in business. There's an awful lot of work to do. There's fewer resources to do it. And everyone's challenged to try to go ahead and still achieve their goals and achieve their numbers. That speed is only increasing. It's increasing at an exponential rate throughout business today. And so, especially for publicly held organizations, that field of vision tends to be 90 days and inward. You're reporting out every quarter, and therefore you have a very limited view of what's in front of you, 90 days. That tends to be a little bit longer, depending on the organization, when you're publicly held or a family-run organization. But still, there are a number of report outs that limits the ability and can serve as distractions.
So as you were saying that, I'm thinking about and trying to picture in my mind, where do senior business executives in today's best run companies you think invest their time?
Well, that's a very interesting question from this perspective. There's 3 different ways, based on my experience, in which executives can invest their time. So whether you're at a vice president, the senior or executive vice president level, or even in the C office itself, there's 3 ways. And the beauty is you can choose where you'd like to invest it. The first is in daily management. That's a lean term that we use, which basically equates to running the business. You're minding the store, making sure that everything is happening as it should be. The second is continuous improvement, or CI. I think probably all of us today joining the call are familiar with that. We know that it's important. It's tweaking and adjusting our performance to constantly and continually get better. There is a third area where few organizations know about it and even fewer practice it. And that's in the world of breakthrough. So if we think of the 3, number 1, run the business or daily management. Number 2, continuous improvement, which is improving the business. Breakthrough as the third is actually transforming the business, looking for significant improvement in the performance and in the results that the organization is generating. And to answer your question, Anna, in the best run organizations that I've worked with and have researched, senior executives are spending up to 70% of their time in breakthrough.
And, one of the questions and terms that has come several times already is breakthroughs. And can you help me and help us understand the difference between breakthroughs and continuous improvement?
No, of course, be happy to. This is a question that I receive a lot with the different organizations I've got the privilege of working with. And continuous improvement, let's first start there. We're all, I think, most familiar with that. Very important and very integral part of running the business today. We need to constantly be looking at ways to improve what we're doing and constantly improve the results. Not only the size of the results, but the quality of the results that the organization is producing, no matter where you are in the organization. This applies not just on the plant or shop floor, the manufacturing floor. This applies throughout the organization in all of its elements and all of its different functions. Breakthrough, by contrast, is where we're thinking about and developing a significant step level improvement in our performance. So as opposed to some minor adjustments and modifications, looking to continuously improve 2, 3, or 4%, we're looking and considering now, when we talk about breakthroughs, we're considering now improvements on the order of magnitude of 20, 30, or even 50%. In some cases, more than that. And so when we think about breakthroughs, I like to think about the different terms that are often used. We've heard not only breakthrough, but depending upon where you've studied or the organizations you've been affiliated with, we may call them BHAGs, that got popularized by Collins and Porras back in the 90s, or Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. If you're a follower of Covey with his 4DX methodology, you might refer to big goals or boldly important goals. They're all the same. I like to refer to them as moonshots. When we think about NASA right here in Houston, where I live, we think about NASA and the term that they use when they've taken on significant changes of what they need to do and significant pursuits that they're making as part of their mission.
So, given what you just shared, and thinking about these, percentages and these numbers and some of the terms, right, like moonshots, is it important? Is it key that these breakthrough goals are realistic and achievable? How does that happen?
Oh boy, that right there is the $1 million question. With the organizations that I've had the opportunity to work with and support, as well as the organizations that I've had the privilege of being responsible for. It's the age-old question that most people will come to try to reach a conclusion about, and that is, shouldn't we be applying SMART goals when setting our goals that we have, whether we're in the world of continuous improvement or in the world of breakthrough? And of course, in addition to measurable, in addition to specific, we have the R, which is realistic, or the A, which could stand for attainable. Those are truly important, obviously, whenever you're setting goals or targets. There's no question. We don't deny that. However, when you're talking about breakthrough, typically you are establishing and defining goals and targets that are reaching for the stars. As a matter of fact, well-defined and properly defined breakthrough goals often create a sense of fear in individuals, because when they're defined, we initially don't know nor understand exactly how we're going to achieve them. But we know that they're important for the organization, or perhaps more important for me to grow professionally, and therefore defining that overall significant improvement in performance should be something that is much more than a SMART goal and something that is much more than a realistic or achievable target. It should be something that has the organization reaching for the stars. And here's why. If you set an attainable target that's got 10 or 15 or even 20% improvement, if it's realistic, if it's achievable, yes, you'll have many people in the organization that are going to be culturally, they'll be attuned to that, and it'll be easier to help them understand and pursue it. However, the question to ask yourself is, if we were to set instead a moonshot goal, that instead of 10, 15, or 20%, maybe had a level of improvement at 50, 60, or 75% over our current baseline demonstrated capability, then now how much farther beyond 15 or even 20% would the organization go in pursuit of a breakthrough goal that was that significant of a reach? And that's the key to breakthroughs, motivating and having the organization be culturally aligned with reaching to try to get as close as you can to these significant improvements in your performance.
Okay. And you also talked about fear and how people get involved evidently to execute on these breakthrough goals. One question in my mind is definitely, so what must be true then to when you're pursuing these breakthrough results?
Mm, yeah. I appreciate that question, and here's why, Anna. I'll be careful because our purpose today is not to have a master class in strategy deployment or Hoshin planning. However, I need to preface it by saying this. Before we talk just at a high level of what the process is, I need to emphasize this, and it's very important. In today's world, with all of the challenges we have from a business perspective, it's very easy, and many people are looking for that proverbial silver bullet. And with almost 40 years at the great game of business, I'm here to share with you at least what I've experienced and what I've learned. There are no silver bullets. There is no magic pixie dust that you can spread on the organization to ensure that the goals are received and that the goals are believed and that they are achieved. It does require some level of support or help. And there are a number of methods, there are a number of philosophies that exist, but some are superior to others. And in my experience, one of those happens to be strategy deployment.
Okay.
What that process looks like is beginning with a definition of why. We start with why, as Simon Sinek said. So we need to understand, why are we looking to pursue a significant improvement in our overall performance as an organization, significant improvement in the results that we're achieving? And if you allow me, you mentioned at the start, and thank you for sharing that fun fact, but based on my desire and my admiration of the sea, I'll use the example of a mariner. Any good mariner who is about to go on the open water and sail from point A today to get to point B tomorrow, they need help, especially when point B is over the circumference of the earth and out of sight. And every good mariner, their best help is their compass. So you begin by setting your compass on what your big, hairy breakthrough goals are that you want to achieve and set for the organization that are important to your customers, your investors, and your employees. We refer to that as true north. So that answers the why. Why do we want to pursue this journey of significant improvements in our performance? And how are we going to exhibit a privilege of focus to get there? So true north begins to set the stage. Once true north is defined, then you set what you need to do as an organization in order to achieve that. So you start with longer term, typically 5-year goals, and shorter term, annual objectives that help move you and advance you year by year closer to the big, important goals that you set on the course of a 5-year continuum. And many people might think 5 years is a long time, particularly when your focus is 90 days and inward.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to think of it this way. 5 years is only 60 months. And all of us here today know how quickly 1 month passes off of our planner or our calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, after you've defined your annual objectives, you translate them into a critical few set of strategic initiatives and priorities that are properly resourced, and then you execute. And once you execute, now you have ways to go ahead and measure and monitor how you're performing in your journey to significant breakthrough results by achieving your true north.
Thank you. And I have some other questions that I want to bring forward. Before I do, we have some really great ones from the audience. So I would love to bring one from Michael Willis here. And basically, he wants to know, how can we skip incremental improvements and aim for quantum leaps in innovation, even amid chaos?
Uh, Michael, thank you for that question. It's an excellent question because you're talking about chaos. And again, going back to what I said initially, most organizations today are fighting those proverbial fires. I tend to refer to that as being chaos cowboys and cowgirls. We come in, we saddle up, we throw the fire hose over our shoulder, and we get to work every day trying to put out the daily fires. In my experience, using something similar to a method, be it Hoshin or otherwise, that generates a true north, inspirational, and measurable value for the organization. And then through leadership, through communication, relying on your organization's culture, you take the opportunity to go ahead and help the organization understand why it's important to the customers, the employees, and the community in which the organization exists. You then have a guide and the discipline to help you get there. It's not perfect, again, but it's something that has proven to be very successful for decades.
So we have another one here, which is directly connected. How can we create control chaos to force innovation?
Oh, very interesting. So controlled chaos, I'll avoid getting into chaos theory. That's another topic for another day. But the bottom line is that by what I've shared already, typically by defining these BHAG or boldly important goals, these moonshots, that in itself is enough to go ahead and invoke some type of level of controlled chaos. It really tends to knock the organization off center if you've defined them properly, because they are so significant as due difference for the organization that people now are scrambling to wonder, how are we going to do this? And that's why it's best to go ahead and use some type of, again, be it a method or be it some type of defined, repeatable approach that will help you and the organization then pursue those innovations that are important to you.
So one question that connects to this from my perspective is, in any organization where leadership doesn't believe in breakthroughs, can it still be successful?
That's a very interesting question, Anna, because I've run into this a number of times with some of the different organizations I've worked with. Mm-hmm. In a few, and gratefully and thankfully, there are only a few of the organizations we had to just agree to not continue moving forward working together because the organization, particularly at the senior leadership level, was not bought in. That is a critical element and a component because leadership sets the tone. Senior leadership says where we're going, why it's important, and then provides the support to the individuals who are going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. They remove the roadblocks, they give it the air cover. So is it to say that you can't be successful in an organization that doesn't want to pursue breakthrough? No, it isn't. But what it does mean is you probably need to start, instead of at the top of the house, which is the best place to start because that strategy then trickles down, you probably need to start in a smaller, perhaps even a cocooned part of the organization, prove the value of what you're doing in seeking breakthrough results, and then help senior leadership to understand and see that, help convince them using your influential leadership skills.
Mm-hmm. And Steve, I'm also curious, from the perspective of, let's say, a more junior leader, someone that is starting their career, and definitely this is one of their areas of deep interest, or they want to grow into this type of area, and probably you will have to face at some point or another this type of challenge if you go enough into the senior leadership levels. what type of capabilities, what type of mindset do you have to build as a leader in order to be able to drive this in an organization?
Mm, okay. This is great because this is only learned in my case. This is only has been learned through a lot of black eyes and bloody noses in the trenches, so to speak. Learning, in other words, through the school of hard knocks. I wish that I would have known some of this when I was younger. It begins by being self-aware of yourself as a leader. And it begins by having some command of influential leadership, because it will require you to go ahead and manage up at some point to help your senior leadership know and understand how and why you're proposing a method designed to go ahead and significantly improve the performance of the organization. So there are some skills that help, be it lean skills, but even more importantly, I think it really starts with truly understanding who you are as a leader, and then developing influential leadership skills and servant leadership skills to serve not simply senior management, but more importantly, the customers of the organization, the employees, and your coworkers in the organization, and the communities in which the organization resides.
Mm-hmm. It sounds that it also has an element. I can see an undertone there, or a red thread of coaching as well. So we have another question from Michael here. So how can we cultivate a culture that embraces, not only the change but the risk taking and the experimentation in
Mhm.
any given organization, right?
No, of course. Yeah. Insightful of you, Michael, because we've all heard, I'm sure, the phrase that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And when you're dealing with something like the pursuit of breakthroughs, I think I've shared, and it should be clear to all of us, that it's really about strategy. It's really about the organizational strategy and then the pursuit of those significant improvements. And knowing that culture eats strategy for breakfast, it's very important to ensure that you don't lose sight of the culture of the organization. Everything you do needs to be aligned. Everything that you do in the pursuit of breakthrough results needs to be culturally attuned with what the existing organization culture is. You can help to mold and shape the culture of the organization going forward. And what better way to do that than enlist, as part of your pursuit of breakthroughs, enlist the help of individuals who are at more junior levels, who are earlier mid-career, that can come in and pursue and lead one of the strategic initiatives that are defined and showcase their skills so that they've got an opportunity to go ahead and continue to grow with the organization as well.
And we have a question that is, I think, spot on for what the topic at hand is, which is, you know, if you're not a leader, hierarchically speaking, in your organization, how do you get your executive team to buy into the need focus on creating breakthroughs?
Mm. It's similar to what I was just sharing, and that's where having some level of command with regards to influential or even situational leadership skills,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing not only your senior level team, but understanding what's important to them, number one, understanding number two, what's important to your customers, and then again, knowing what's important from a community and from an employee perspective. When you look all the way around that wheel of stakeholders, then knowing what's important and why can help you then define what some of the opportunities are for breakthrough levels of performance. Don't lose, and this is my advice, don't lose hope, don't lose confidence that you will be successful with any type of breakthrough results in your organization if you don't at first have the top senior leadership's ear. That is ideal. That makes the journey easier and faster, but it is not a deal killer. I'll give an example. I worked with an organization in Europe where their senior executive of the portion of the organization that I was working with knew and understood the value of pursuing breakthroughs and the value of methods like ocean planning and certain continuous improvement methods. The senior leadership team, of which he was a part, the C-level, the CEO, had a different set of experience and skills and didn't have full appreciation for this. So this senior leader took it upon himself, we worked together, and took it upon himself to help his organization prove the value of delivering breakthrough results. And he did so marvelously. And it helped open the eyes of the rest of the C-suite so that they could understand the value, and they then wanted to play the game of me too. They wanted to become more involved and learn how to pursue breakthroughs in their parts of the organization. So it is definitely doable. It's just being smart about where you start and, most importantly, why you want to do it.
Yeah, I hear elements of change management, definitely communication, and building trust across the board with all of these different actions.
Indeed.
Right. So this other question is, I think, is very very interesting too. So what are the signs that a company truly is focused on achieving breakthroughs? I am in job search mode and want to choose the right employer. That's a great question.
Very good question. Very good question. Because it also tells me that the individual asking the question has a level of self-awareness already of what they value and what they don't. So bravo. The best way to tell about organizations, it's not just financial performance. If you want to know that they're pursuing breakthrough, the best way is to try to gain an understanding of what's important to the organization, whether it's through ESG initiatives, whether it's through initiatives that are generating the greatest return to investors, whether it's through initiatives and efforts that are making the most valuable organization for their employees to grow and prosper and continue to contribute to organizational performance. Understanding that, which, by the way, I think we can put a wrapper around all of that and call that culture to some degree. I think understanding that about the organization and looking for some of those key elements provides some clues to whether they're truly in the pursuit of breakthrough and truly in pursuit of making a better organization for all of its key shareholders, or if they are more in maintenance mode and just trying to take a steady as she goes approach, which is okay for that particular organization. And it may be okay for you if that's the type of organization you value as a potential employee. Speaking personally, that has little appeal to me. I like organizations that are looking to grow, expand, and significantly outshine the competition by making their key stakeholders significantly better.
And to that point, that is probably an ideal moment, right, to get started and be part of that story. But there's also organizations that haven't yet started with breakthrough performance or a breakthrough approach. So, what would you recommend, Steve, being the best way to get started in the journey of breakthrough performance?
Okay. Well, again, I'll use my experiences both in leading major organizations and in assisting major global 200 organizations. Typically, there's a desire. There's a known desire. There's, whether we want to call it a pain point, whether we want to call it a necessity. It could be an organization that may be experiencing a certain level of distress, or it may be a very progressive organization that really wants to go ahead and stay ahead of the pack. In any one of those scenarios, a good way to get started, obviously, is you can build it yourself. You can study some of the principles of, be it ocean planning and other lean transformational and business transformation skills. That's definitely doable. And it's one way to go ahead and approach things. I'll suggest to you that that will likely require more time on your behalf as well as your team's behalf. Another way is to go ahead and partner with someone who's been there and who's done that. And there are many good practitioners of strategy deployment and moonshot and breakthrough thinking that exist. And provided that you have the means and the budget, it makes sense to go ahead and partner with them, because they'll be your navigator. They'll be your field guide who will get you through the journey more quickly, because they're aware of not only what are some of the better practices, but they're also aware of the pitfalls and can help you and your team avoid them in your journey.
Thank you, Steve. That has been extremely, extremely insightful. And what I can see is that, definitely a decision to start on breakthrough performance starts with that, with making the decision, right, and bringing in the alignment and the buy-in of senior leadership. This has been extremely, extremely insightful, Steve. Thank you very much for your time, for sharing some of your wisdom nuggets. Everybody, be sure to connect with Steve on LinkedIn and check out his website at brightler.com. Thank you so much, Steve. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you very much. And to all the participants, thank you for your interest, and thank you for joining. I really appreciate you and look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.